Welcome to the Trigger to Truth program. This is where successful individuals and parents build a more energizing, purposeful, and happier life and home. In just 6 weeks, I help parents reduce their drinking to a level they feel comfortable with using my Trigger to Truth framework, the Reset Intensive. So homes feel calmer, parenting feels enjoyable, and children experience a happier, healthier household without needing to fully quit alcohol. This is for you if you are a parent in your 30s and your 40s, you've built a career, you've got a family, you have the car, you have the house, you're comfortable, and life seems good. But it's what's happening inside you that is making you question, how good life is, how do I feel, how am I showing up as a parent? Is there something underneath that is driving me, that just is dysregulating me, making me feel like, I've got all these things, but inside I'm still struggling. So there's a lot of built up emotional pressure, processed emotion, automatic reactions, emotional survival mode, and parents reacting before you're thinking. These are very common traits for very high functioning, successful parents that are overstimulated and over emotional, especially under lots of pressure. You're good parents, but you're exhausted internally. You work hard, but you're emotionally overloaded. You love your kids, but you're very reactive to very small things. You try your best, but you just feel a disconnect from yourself. And everything looks fine externally, but you're blowing up inside. You have this emotional state of mind constantly that is just impacting in every area of your life. So I'm Ben. I'm a single dad. I'm separated. I'm an ex-drinker. I'm a professional and business owner. I have over 20 years experience working with children and families. I've been rock bottom multiple times. I've been burnt out. I've been stressed. I've been suicidal. I've been overwhelmed. I've lost everything and I've been broken. But I built myself back up from the ground with more presence, more patience, more energy, more drive. And you know what? I'm an awesome dad. And that's not happened overnight. The realization you need is you can't continue like this. You know something is not right. You know something needs to change. You don't know what it is, but you just know it. It's inside you. It's a feeling of uncertainty. And underneath that, you aren't failing because you don't care. You're failing because you are running on survival mode. And it's this sort of energy that is keeping you going, and you're just getting through life, but you feel very stuck. You know you can be doing better, and it just doesn't feel right. You don't feel connected to yourself. And a typical day can look like this. You can wake up, you're already tired. You're mentally overloaded. Small things trigger big reactions, and especially this is where parenting and children will really highlight all this unprocessed emotion that's inside you. Unprocessed childhood reactionary behaviors within yourself, and your children will just trigger that and bring it to the foresight of your attention. And then you can snap and you regret it straight after, which creates a cycle of guilt and shame. So you wake up in the morning, you work, you've got your evening chaos, and then you've got a shutdown time. Alcohol can be a constant theme throughout that for you because it's needed for you to regulate yourself. But underneath, we start to see that we need an emotional release valve. And the child becomes that emotional release valve because they're triggering you. You react in a way that you're parenting, and you can start to take out all this unprocessed emotion on your children. And that then has a significant impact on them. This doesn't stay small. Kids absorb all the emotional environments that they're in. They pick up on everything. A lot of the work that I've done with young people and families over 20 years is child voice work, and really getting to see children through their point of view and getting parents to understand their child's voice, which is so important in today's world. Long gone are the days where children are to be seen and not heard. We shouldn't be like that. We shouldn't be like that. Children are very, very important, and their voice is important, and how they see life is so important for their long-term outcomes. You know, children mirror regulation. So if you're regulated at home and you've got a very stable, regulated home life, children mirror that. The opposite, they also mirror that. They go to school and behave like that. They go out in the community and will be dysregulated and behave like that. Tensions become normalized. So if they're living within this fractious home life and they can feel the tension, that becomes their normality. That becomes from where they function from, where they process from. It's also the same for the adults in that house. Suddenly, tension, stress, overwhelm, these all become normal things that are happening within households and within relationships and within parenting. Emotional patterns transfer generationally. So generational trauma is one thing, but generational emotional safety is another. So all things are passed down generationally through families. So we are parenting from a place that we were once parented. Now, sometimes we have self-awareness and we decide to go the opposite of what our parents taught us, which also isn't as healthy as we think it might be, because that's an extreme reaction to what happened to us. So we have to find a balance in how we parent. So it can be exactly the same as we were parented as a child. And if you've gone through a traumatic childhood, or even if it's not traumatic as you think it is, there are definitely patterns within that show up with you as an adult and how you parent. So children learn emotional safety from nervous systems around them. So it's so important that the adults and the key people, the carers within their lives, have emotional safety. It's patterns and triggers that are running your life. So trigger goes to reaction, and then the guilt happens, and then escapism is needed, and then repeat. And so many people are on this pattern. So many people are on this loop where the trigger, the reaction, the guilt, the escape, and the repeat again. And this happens to so many people. It's not uncommon. Most reactions are automated. So as soon as the trigger happens, you react in a certain way, whether that's shouting, whether that's screaming, whether that's disconnection, whether that's going inside yourself, whether you avoid confrontation, you avoid situations that you find difficult because you're overwhelmed and you're emotionally overwhelmed and you can't cope with it. Most parenting triggers unresolved emotional patterns. So as soon as we are triggered, we know that is coming from somewhere, but that is an emotional pattern that has been unresolved within yourself, and you need to understand where it comes from to be able to resolve it, to be able to respond in a different way. This doesn't happen overnight. There's many ways to get to this point, but first we need awareness and we need to know where it comes from. The nervous system reacts before logic engages. So your nervous system, you'll dysregulate, you feel it in your body, it's a somatic feeling within your body, and then you respond from that. That's not you. That's your nervous system dysregulating. And then whatever comes out of your mouth after that is from a place of dysregulation. So as soon as you are triggered and you parent from this place, you can't parent effectively because you're emotionally overwhelmed. Again, we need to get to the bottom of that and decide where this stuff comes from to then change that. And alcohol is a distraction, becomes regulation. So many people, and my coaching is not around full sobriety. If you want to go full sober, I'm here and I'll take you all the way. But initially it's around bringing awareness to your alcohol patterns and how it impacts your life and your parenting and the impact on your children. Now, sometimes people will be, what we call functioning alcoholics and drink quite a lot and drink regularly and drink daily. Some people don't. They don't drink that much. But when it becomes a tool that distracts you from actually what's going on, that's when the problems arise and it becomes a problem. And it might already be a problem which needs addressing. So as an example, a child spilling some juice isn't a trigger. The trigger is the pressure already inside you. Children are going to spill things on the carpet. They're not going to eat the tea. They're going to make a messy room. You're going to have to ask them 10, 15, 20, 30 times to do something and they'll not do it. Cleaning your teeth is a classic in the morning, isn't it? How many times you have to tell your kids to do that? But your reaction to them not following your instructions, we blame the child, and that's the trigger, but it's nothing to do with the child. It always sits within ourselves. So the loop most parents never see. The trigger is the reaction, goes to guilt, escape, repeat. And that is a vicious cycle that we all get caught in. I was there myself until I brought massive amounts of awareness to this. It was evident, but it's not there until you realize, until you bring awareness to it. So a trigger activates stress, response, and reaction creates guilt. Guilt creates emotional discomfort. So let's go back. So once the trigger happens, the stress, your cortisol levels in your body react. And then you're reacting from a place that is of dysregulation. It's not you. But that reaction then creates guilt. As soon as you feel guilt, a cycle of emotional discomfort happens within your body, because feeling guilt is awful. It's a horrible emotion. Now, we can continue down that path. But what happens with a lot of people is alcohol comes in at this point. It's because you don't like feeling like that. No one wants to feel that pain. Alcohol numbs it. It gets rid of it. And it's a pattern that you do without even realizing it. It's unbelievable how many people will just at that point go and get a glass of wine, and then the reasons, oh, I've had a busy day, I'm stressed, the kids are playing up. Perfect, isn't it? It's a perfect way to get rid of that really discomfort feeling of guilt, because it's horrible guilt. It's gut-wrenching, it's nasty, but I'll tell you what, a glass of wine takes that away. Now, do we want that? And do we want to continue down that cycle and keep repeating? Or do we want to get some awareness and change it? Nervous system never resolves. So with the alcohol within it, you never get to zero again, do you? You can never reset fully, because if you've got alcohol in your system, it's distorting your nervous system regulation. So actually, you never get back to this grounded place of normality, let's say, because you've got factors in the way. It could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be other things in your life that you use as a tool to distract yourself from what's going on. It could be porn, it could be overeating, it could be shopping. Whatever it is, they're all distraction tools. Alcohol's the main one. That's the one that we're focusing on. But the key thing is it doesn't allow your nervous system to regulate. So you can't change a pattern you cannot see. So what we have to do is we have to find the patterns and find the triggers and see them, and then we can start to change. We've all got them, by the way. They're all there. It's how we bring awareness to them. So this is the framework that I developed. And if you join the program, this is what you'll be working through. So it's called the Trigger to Truth framework. And over years of working with parents, I noticed the same sequence repeatedly. Every reactive parent follows a very similar nervous system cycle. And the Trigger to Truth interrupts that cycle. This isn't motivational, it's nervous system retraining. So as you can see, we've got the triggering at the top of that pyramid. Trigger mapping is the first phase, the initial activation where what stirs the nervous system into reaction, that's the trigger. And then the neural reset is how we bring pause and regulate and reconnect with presence within that. And then the conscious response system is a grounded awareness, guided intentional action approach to how we want to respond in those situations when they come up, because they continually come up as parenting. It's very difficult. It's very stressful. So the first stage to that is the trigger mapping. So we have to identify activation points. We understand where the emotional patterns are coming from. We recognize physical stress responses. What are they? What are they in our environment? What are these triggers? What is happening repeatedly that keeps doing the same thing, that keeps showing up for us? And we need to discover hidden beliefs that are driving these reactions. This always comes back to how we were parented, what we've gone through in our life experiences, what we went through as children, how we were brought up, how we went to school, how did that pan out? And then that's when we were younger. And then as we go into adulthood, what else has impacted us? What gets in the way? What drives us? What drives our reactions? So awareness starts to replace shame, because all the trigger and all the things create a shame cycle. Once you can see the trigger, you stop becoming the trigger. So I'll say that again. Awareness replaces shame. And once you can see the trigger, you stop becoming the trigger. So you get more awareness. Pillar 2 is a neural reset method. So regulation before reaction. So we have to, as soon as we are triggered, we feel that emotion in our body. What we have to do then is we need to bring some regulation before we react. Okay? So pause before parenting. It's a great phrase, isn't it? Let's just have a moment. Let's pause before whatever comes out of our mouth damages the situation, damages our children, causes pain to our children. Because remember, they're just children. They have to be children. It's the adults around them that have to show up and do the work and do the inner work on themselves to regulate themselves. That's our responsibility as parents, to bring up children, the next generations that haven't been through the things that we've been through, because we've parented them from a different way. There is a way to do that. The 90-second reset. So it's just a pause. It's taking that time. It's pause before parenting. Does it have to be 90 seconds? It can be 60. As long as we've brought that awareness and we've paused before what comes out of our mouth to make the situation worse. That's the key. Nervous system deactivation. So as soon as we're dysregulated, we are activated. We are in a place that anything can happen. It's, it is us, but it's also not us. That's not us. That's not the calm, loving parent we want to be. When we're snapping, we're reacting, we're shouting, we're blaming, we're shaming, we're making our kids feel guilty for spilling a juice on a carpet. It's just a carpet. It'll clean. But it's not about that, is it? It's this overwhelm, this massive reaction that comes. So we need to reconnect with the conscious choices that we make. So we get that by pausing. We get that by resetting. And then we can make a better decision. But it all comes back to understanding ourselves first. We have to understand ourselves first, and all this becomes second nature, and it happens. So breathe, reset, regulation, repeat. Let's go. So you cannot solve emotional hijack with logic. So as soon as you are dysregulated, it all goes out the window. Logic goes out the window. It doesn't make sense. The nervous system must regulate first. So we have to catch that in the moment. This takes time, guys. Like, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's in 3 phases. We find the trigger, we work on the regulation, and then we have a system in place which makes us carry this forward, and that is the conscious response system. So moving from survival parenting to conscious parenting. Conscious is the key word. We are aware of what is happening. We are aware of our surroundings. We are aware of our triggers. We are aware of ourselves. We know where it comes from. It makes sense now. We understand it. Once we understand it, we can do something about it. We give ourselves compassion. We give ourselves empathy. We are humans. We've lived a life. We've lived a journey. It's been tough. Don't know what yours is like, but mine was hard. To get to this, I'm not alone. Everyone's journey is hard. So we need to bring some awareness to that. We need to bring empathy towards ourselves. But we have intentional responses. These are going to be built in. So no longer is the overreaction, the overwhelm of parenting, the shouting or the blaming and all this dysregulation within a household. It's calm, it's responsive. And trust me, once you do this, everything in your house changes, and it only takes one adult in that house to do it, and everything changes. You start leading with emotional leadership. Massive. Your kids see this in you, they change. They change so much. You have calm communication. You have consistency over perfection. Because we're human beings. We can't be perfect all the time. We want to be, but we can't. But once you change, your children see the change in you, and the evidence will be in front of you. Once you start to put this into practice, children respond massively. You respond massively to yourself, and it all starts to fall into place, and you'll have a happier, healthier home, relationship, relationship with your kids, with your partner. It all improves. The goal isn't perfect parenting. The goal is conscious parenting, and that is the key. We've got to remember that. So the transformation, we have old you and new you. The old you is reactive, it's avoidant, snaps quickly, drinks to switch off, goes into constant guilt cycles when things don't go to plan, or there's confrontation, or there's too much noise, or there's too much pressure in the house, and there's a lot of tension inside your body. That's the old you. Once you have gone through this program, the new you pauses before reacting. You have a calmer nervous system. You're emotionally more present in every situation within your home. It's intentional and it's connected. You know who you are. And once you know authentically who you are, you can lead much calmer. But a lot of people don't know who they are because we're running on different programs. We're running from different stages in our lives. And actually, we need to live right now in this moment and understand who we are and why we respond the way we do. So the same person, but you have a different nervous system. You have different awareness and you have different emotional leadership. And remember this, calm is not weakness. Calm is leadership. I mean, houses and homes should be calm. Are they going to be calm 100% of the time? No, they're not. And that's not also good for kids. It's not giving them a view of the world. It's not real, is it? They need some form of chaos, I suppose, if you want to use it that, because we can't be calm all the time, but we can be 90% of the time. And then every now and again, there's some conflict. There's nothing wrong with that. Calm is leadership. Because calm homes create safer children. And that's what fundamentally what we're doing here. We're working on ourselves, but not only that, we're working on ourselves to give our children better outcomes in life. In my experience over all the years, it always comes back to parenting. Children that suffer, that have not as good outcomes as everybody else, that have mental health problems later on in life, that have mental health problems during school, that struggle with relationships, struggle with school, struggle with adulthood. It all comes down to how they were brought up and how aware we are of our children's needs. And again, it comes back to the child voice work that I do. Once you start to listen, understand children and see what their world looks like, we parent from a different place because it makes sense to them. We have to get to that. There is nothing wrong. And I often come across parents that feel like they need control. Let go. We don't need to control our kids, the children. They're absolutely fine. We don't have to control. We don't have to be authoritarian. It doesn't work. You know, we have to listen, to validate, to understand them, to empathize with them, for them to feel safe, to create safety. And then they flourish and they change. And if you've got any behaviors that in your children that you don't like, that you're sick of, that you want to change, guess what happens? Once you change yourself, your children's behavior change. It's as simple as that. But first, you've got to get that mirror and you've got to look in it and you've got to go deep. And this is what this work does. Once we change that, everything changes. The children change, the household changes. It's unbelievable. So parents shape emotional environments. We've talked about that briefly. But if you can create this environment in your home, everyone flourishes. And children absorb that regulation. They see it. Because children will go two ways. If you shout and scream at them, they might shout and scream back. It creates a lot of discomfort. Or they go inside themselves and they hide away because they can't be who they can be. Because they can't trust that they can be authentically themselves around adults that shout and shame at them and scream at them for doing things, for doing the smallest of things. Children's behavior will change once you change yourself. Healing yourself changes future generations. Simple as that. Heal yourself changes future generations. And this is what we're doing here as parents. We're responsible adults. We're successful professional people. We can do this. And this is what it's about. And it's all about your kids and yourself. This is bigger than parenting tips. This isn't parenting tips at all. It's inner work on yourself, which changes the relationships of the people around you, predominantly your children. That's what we do. So when parents heal their triggers, they stop passing down the pain. And then guess what happens? So when your children are old and they've grown up and they have their own kids, they don't pass the pain on that we gave them. We break the cycle. And it's so important. It's so important. It's not just us in the here and now, it's the future generations that we're trying to change. And this is what this system gives you. You're not a bad parent. You're a triggered one. And you're reacting from patterns that you don't yet understand. But patterns can be interrupted. Triggers can be healed. And when one parent changes, the whole family changes. So I just want to repeat that. You are not a bad parent. You're a triggered one. But when one parent changes, the whole family changes. And it's really true. It does work like that. So to continue this conversation, if this is something that I have talked about and it really resonates with yourself, um, whether you're navigating stress, parental challenges, emotional triggers, your relationship with alcohol, or simply want space to talk things through, I offer a free, no pressure discovery conversation. There's no pitch, there's no expectations. It's just a genuine chat. It's advice, support, and an opportunity to explore where you'd like to be. This is information for you. It's curiosity. If you are curious around this and a lot of these things, you're thinking, do you know what? That is me, hook, line, thinking that is what I'm doing. That's what's happening. You know, drop me a message. My email's there. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok and get in touch. Let's have a conversation. All right. Thank you. And good luck.